This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, April the 13th, 1984, Pete Rose made his mark on the Montreal Expos as they took on the Philadelphia Phillies in the home opener of their 1984 season. The Expos came off an 8-game road trip in which they were 4-4. So they were doing decent. The Philadelphia Phillies, who were the 1983 National League champs, the defending National League champs, for 5-2. It was a 4 o'clock start on April 13th, 1984, when the Expos would play their home opener against the Phillies. And of course, YouTube has the video of the Phillies Expos game from 1984, mostly because of one key moment. We see the broadcast booth of Dave Van Horne and Duke Snyder, and you'd be thinking to yourself, Dave Van Horne looks a whole lot different than he seems to be, like when he does retrospectives on the Expos. That's right. You see, he doesn't really have hair on his head. He looks like he has aged terribly, and that, Duke Snyder doesn't look that bad either. But yeah, Dave Van Horn has a rug on his head. You can kind of make the observation based on that. But the fact of the matter was that they were talking about how the Expos were coming off this road trip, and Pete Rose would be making his debut as Expos home debut. And it was, the Expos had their traditional meet and greet of the competitors who make up the 1984 Expos, and Pete Rose got an elongated standing ovation from the Expo faithful. It was hard enough that Rose had to deal with the Philadelphia Phillies, in which he was a Philly for the 1983 season and got to the World Series, but lost to the Orioles in 5 games. So it was a key matchup. Also, the pregame ceremonies were huge because in 1984, at the time, the Olympics were both winter and summer in the same year. So the Winter Olympians of 1984 were honored by the Expos, especially Gaetan Boucher, because the Quebec-born speed skater scored a pair of major gold medals at the 1984 Olympics. And so he did. And Celine Dion was selected to sing the American and Canadian national anthems. That was before Celine Dion was a big household name and all that. And 4 years before she went to participate in Eurovision representing Switzerland, which I felt was terrible because it's like, she's Canadian. She's not Swiss. How dare you circumvent the rules? But then I was fully told that Johnny Logan, who sang Once Another Year in 1980 and also won the 1987 Eurovision, wasn't Irish at all. He was Australian. Well, he was representing Ireland. So, fair enough. So, anyway, the Phillies and Expos would play each other. The starting lineups: Phillies would have Juan Samuel at second base, future Blue Jay. Len Matusek, future Blue Jay at first base. Mike Schmidt, third base, the great third baseman of the Phillies. Joe Lefebvre in right field. Glenn Wilson in left. Von Hayes center field. Bo Diaz catching. Ivan De Jesus at short, and Jerry Kuzman pitching, the former Met legend. The Expos had Pete Rose leading off and playing left field. Rose was versatile. He could play left field, third base, second base, first base, a lot of positions. Brian Little at second base. Tim Raines, the speedster at center. Andre the Hawk Dawson in right field. Gary Carter playing first base, which was a weird change. Tim Wallach started at third. Bobby Ramos was catching. I think they thought that Ramos would be good enough. And Angel Salazar at short, and Charlie Lee, LEA, would be the pitcher. He of the no hitter for the Expos in 1981. So anyway, Phillies had nothing. Pete Rose came up to the plate, and unfortunately, on the first pitch of the at bat, he grounded out to second. The Expos would score a pair of runs as Charlie Lee himself had a ball, but unfortunately, De Jesus made a brutal error, scoring Bobby Ramos from first base. Lee got to second base. After Rose reached on a pitching error by Kuzman, Little came up to the plate and hit a single, scoring the lead to make it 2-0. And then Bo Diaz had an RBI single to score Glenn Wilson to make it 2-1. And then in the bottom of the fourth, Charlie Lee coursed a walk from Kuzman, which brought Rose up to the plate. He was on 3,999 hits. That's why I picked this game. Pete Rose then came to the plate and he went bonkers. On a 1-1 fastball, he drove it to right field, bouncing it fair just on the right field line, and it hit the wall. Rose hustled in the second, Lee went to third, and Pete Rose got to 4,000 hits, only the second player ever to do so after Ty Cobb, and the first National Leaguer to do so. It was amazing to see Pete Rose with all those hit records and all that, but to do it in an Expos uniform, not a Reds uniform or even a Phillies uniform, was just amazing and big for the Expos and their faithful. So they got a double, and it was huge. Rose would score on a 2 RBI single by Tim Raines later on in that inning to make it 4-1 Expos. So Rose got to 4,000 hits. The game was kind of boring after that. Gary Carter hit an RBI double off Bill Campbell in the seventh to make it 5-1 Expos. The Expos, well, Gary Lucas was on the bump in the top of the ninth after Charlie Lee had hit Juan Samuel to load the bases. John Wilkenfuss came into the plate, but unfortunately Lucas got him to ground out, and Lucas picks up the save because it was a safe situation, and the Expos survived 5-1, a big win for the Expos. But as I said, the big story, of course, is Pete Rose and the legendary moment of him getting his 4,000 hit, not as a member of the Phillies, not as a member of the Reds, but as a member of the Montreal freaking Expos. Ironically, I believe the same day, he actually married his longtime girlfriend Carol in a Cincinnati courtroom, on purpose because the Expos had a pesky rule about the fact that wives were allowed to be on the team flight, but girlfriends were not. Well, unmarried girls were not supposed to be. So that's what happened, so that she can get on the flight to Montreal for the for the Expos Phillies. And then of course the Expos didn't do so badly in 1984, but they traded Pete Rose back to Cincinnati. So Rose would end his career as a Red, and of course in great shame too. Of course, this would be the last hurrah for Gary Carter, as before the 85 season, the Expos would trade him to the Mets. Well, they got Mike Fitzgerald back, which was good for their catching prospects, but still, that trade was just unbelievable. And yeah, they got Hubie Brooks. But anyway, it still sours Expos fans to this day. But the fact of the matter is, 40 years ago, Pete Rose got his 4,000th hit as a member of the Expos, and a Canadian audience got to watch the game. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond Ado.